Welcome back into a Thursday edition of the NFL Report. James Palmer, Steve Weich with you. You know what Thursdays mean, Steve? Player interviews. How about the Jaguars tight end Evan Engram? Defensive Player of the Week from the Denver Broncos, Justin Simmons. Both of those guys will join the show, as well as Baldi's favorite films, my favorite segment each and every week. And also the coach, Pep Hamilton, will be joining us as well as, is there a QB crisis in the NFL right now, Steve? Pep's going to break that down for us, but we have to start this show with where the biggest news came out, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders, and they are moving on from not just head coach Josh McDaniels, but also general manager Dave Ziegler. Where were you when this news broke, Steve?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so funny, JP, because all these Raiders fans who are sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired are like, I'm so happy they fired Josh, so happy that they got rid of these guys. But really? Are you happy? How can a Raiders fan be happy? The one person who is happy is the guy who's taken over now, and that's interim head coach Antonio Pierce.
The short story, the matter of fact, is I grew up in Compton, California. I was born a Raider. I was born with the Raiders rolling in the Coliseum in L.A. I was rolling with NWA, talking straight out of Compton, rocking Raider hats. So when the opportunity came to work with Josh and Pat Graham and Dave, I jumped on it. So that's what set me up for this. I was born this way.
Yeah, okay. So that's got some flavor, that's got some feel, and especially coming from Antonio, a great player with the Giants. He has paid his dues among the coaching ranks. But JP, you heard what he said. I was born a Raider when they used to roll into the Coliseum. That's unfortunately where this organization's head is stuck at, whether it's the LA Coliseum or the Oakland Coliseum. It seems as if they are just locked into the commitment to excellence and all of this stuff. I've heard Antonio talk about it, heard Gruden talk about it, heard Dennis Allen talk about it, heard Hugh Jackson talk about it. But are they really committed? You're hiring the wrong coaches, firing them after a year and a half, paying quarterbacks who you end up benching halfway through the season after you fire your staff. JP, it just seems like they're stuck in 40 years ago thinking that Lyle Alzado is going to come walking through that door.
We'll get to Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler and the mistakes maybe that were made over the last year and a half and the future of the Las Vegas Raiders. But you're right, Steve. I made this point to you this morning, and I actually was talking to an assistant coach in the NFL before we did this show who thought the exact same thing. I don't know a team or an organization that has been stuck or uses or is attached to the culture and the identity that is that organization more than the Raiders. And maybe, just maybe, it plays a bigger part in how this organization is run, what they're looking for, how they're trying to operate than any other organization in all of football. It really is fascinating. I mean, this is an owner in Mark Davis who obviously takes over from his father, Al Davis, who, just like his father, listens to players a lot. That happened in this process. Specifically some meetings with some star players within that organization, but also listens to the fans a lot. And we know the way the Raiders Nation is. I remember being there when Gruden was hired, being up there at the facility in Oakland, and the amount of alumni that was in the building for John Gruden's press conference, the amount of fans that were standing outside that facility for that press conference, and it was, we're going back. That's what we keep hearing every time people get hired or they come as an interim head coach in this fashion with Pierce, is we're going back to the Raiders way. And the other quote that we didn't run and plays right into this, Steve, is Antonio Pierce had another quote where he said, a big part of this is we're going to make Raiders Nation and the alumni proud with how we play. This is almost a broken record with the Raiders in terms of how the thinking is. I know that's not wrong to think that way, but it's almost a higher emphasis than in any other building in football.
Yeah, man, and I'm really hoping Antonio Pierce gets this right, because I think, again, he's paid his dues. I really like Antonio in a lot of different ways, but then I'm saying to myself, if he does get it right, remember, they're only 3-5. They've got 9 games left to play. He's got an opportunity, but will Mark Davis keep him? He had a chance to do this with Rich Bisaccia a couple of years ago, who took over for Gruden and got these teams to the playoffs and 10 wins. but will he keep Antonio Pierce because he always wants that shiny new toy in his beautiful stadium in Las Vegas, which is where the Super Bowl will be played this year. And so you're just wondering what decisions will be made and if this team actually has a chance, because JP, they've got Devontae Adams, they got Max Crosby, they got Josh Jacobs, but they've had those guys. Now they're hoping Aiden O'Connell can come in there, the rookie, to play quarterback to get things over the hump. But it's just, where are these guys headed? What is going to happen with this organization? Because like you said, everybody else has at least tried to make a step forward, and they keep on just stepping forward on a treadmill.
I don't know if you came up with that yourself, Steve, but that's a great line. Keep making a step forward on a treadmill. I'm not sure who you stole that from. If it's an original, I give you all the credit. But I'm not sure who is at fault here, really. I think we know this is probably the last chance we're going to see Josh McDaniels as a head coach in the NFL. This is the second time, only time in NFL history, a guy hasn't made it 2 full seasons as the head coach of 2 separate organizations. But if you look at the way this thing was set up, it was said by Dave Ziegler this offseason, the general manager, that player development was more important than wins this season. Right? So that's where the thinking was from the front office perspective of developing this team. But it's a draft class that hasn't developed. It's a draft class that has a hard time getting on the field as well. And then Mark Davis knows that, but then pulls the trigger quickly. So it has to be really, Steve, that he saw something to where speaking with players and speaking to people in that organization, and I've made plenty of phone calls, probably as you have over the last couple of days, it was, I don't see this going anywhere in the eyes of Mark Davis, so he ends up pulling the plug now as opposed to later, and we get a chance for a long stretch to see an interim head coach with the Raiders. It's fascinating, but we have to move on because we have 2 massive interviews with 2 organizations that had a very, very good week, unlike the Raiders. The Jacksonville Jaguars tight end Evan Engram will be joining the show next. Is it the best group of skill position players in the NFL? We'll find out what Evan thinks coming up on the NFL Report.
I'm Jason Kelsey, and you're watching the NFL Report.
All right, Steve, welcome back to the NFL Report. We are joined by Jacksonville Jaguars tight end Evan Engram, who I think I'm his favorite person to speak to because after we talked in the week leading into that Steelers game, he has 10 targets, 10 catches for 88 yards. And I want to say this. I don't know if you know this, Evan. With that performance, it's you and Jeremy Shockey alone in NFL history in terms of tight ends with more than 40 catches and 400 receiving yards in each of their first 7 seasons.
Yeah, somebody tagged me in that this past week, and sometimes I kind of try to skip over that kind of stuff, but that one was pretty cool, actually. Just that name alone, Jeremy was a great tight end, and just even how hard it is to even get to this point, definitely was a cool little stat for me for sure.
Well, Evan, even stats aside, you guys got the dub, right? 5 in a row. You go over to London, you guys get things kick-started. Like, what is the feel of the team right now? Because, you know, it looks to us like you're rolling and you're going upwards, right? You're still kind of finding your stride.
Yeah, it's awesome right now. The locker room is definitely got a nice little buzz to it, but it's well earned. We understood we were in a rough spot after week 3, and we kind of had to look ourselves in the mirror and hold each other accountable to what we knew, what we were capable of, and just really put our head down and put the work in. And now we're in a good spot going into the bye week. And probably the more impressive and special thing about it is, you know, we understand that we really haven't done anything yet. This is all expected, and this is what we've been working for and see for ourselves. And so now it's how do we continue to improve and continue to be consistent in what we've been doing.
Let's talk about locker room buzz, Evan, because I was in that locker room in Pittsburgh that had a lot of buzz in it, specifically from your defensive side of the football. After some of the comments from George Pickens got out there, a hope defense you guys were called. Rashawn Jenkins, to me, had the best line of anybody on that side. I said, I was hoping they were going to come out and show up today, but apparently they didn't. And when Josh Allen told me this was a statement game for your defense, right? Like, I love the way those guys kind of embrace that trash talk. You guys you want to be known as a physical team, don't you?
For sure. That's who we are. That's our identity. Our defense takes pride in that 100%. And even those comments, it created an edge for us in our preparation. And that's where we win the games. We win Sundays in our process during the week. And that's something we all kind of buy into. So, it was kind of fortunate that they were kind of feeling themselves a little bit, because it allowed us to create an edge, especially our defense. Especially for our defense, man. They've already been balling, so they kind of poked the bear on that one. And to see the performance they put together, you look at our offense, we did everything we weren't supposed to do. They kept us in it, allowed us to capitalize on some of our opportunities. But it was an awesome week. That's the NFL AFC matchup. We learned about the rivalry and all the previous big matchups between Jacksonville and Pittsburgh. And that was my first time playing in that stadium. And obviously, that's a really historic franchise. And we bought into all of that. And this is what we prepare for. This is what this is a dream. We're living the dream playing in the league. And it was a cool matchup. And I'm glad we got to go dominate it.
Speaking of living the dream, the number 9, 10, and 11 receivers in the NFL are tight ends. It's Kelce at 9, Hockenson at 10, you at 11. Laporta from the Lions is at 19. So 4 of the top 20 receivers in the NFL are tight ends. What about kind of the evolution of that position and the fact that someone like yourself or Kelce, you've made yourself a go-to option?
Yeah. You named off some dogs. Those guys are elite, and And to be honest, we all watch tape, and we try to watch film on how to beat opponents and better our game, and those guys are the ones that I see the most that pop up on tape. And the position as a whole is just evolving. We're asked to do more. Obviously, the talent that's coming into this league is evolving as well. You got just freak athletes able to play this position. You got the right kind of offensive mindset and offensive mind, drawing up plays and putting together game plans to exploit some of the mismatches that athletes like ourselves cause. So it's a cool position, and it's a great position for myself and my teammates in that tight end room in this offense. And but at the end of the day, I just put the work in, try to be reliable. And when the ball comes my way, I just try to take pride in being special and changing the game and being a spark. And I've learned how to do that through a lot of hard work and watching some of the names that you mentioned.
I got to jump onto that. You mentioned watching the film of these guys. If you have one film to put on, it's one offense, it's one player. Maybe it's how the tight end is used, or it's the tight end. What film are you putting on?
Ooh.
Yeah, no, it's easy, man. Travis is the standard right now. You turn on that offense, you kind of get in trouble watching their offense. They do a lot of off the script stuff. But it's also, you can tell it's an understanding of the game too, an understanding of the defenses they're playing and some of the plays that they come up with and the plays that they make. And tight end university is actually a cool thing that we do in the off season, and all the tight ends get together. Mm-hmm. And Travis is a great mind to pick, and having conversations with him about things that he sees and things that he does. It's different. It's a different level. So he's been the guy. He's been the top dog for the last couple of years, and he's even the younger generation coming up underneath him. He's a great example and one of my favorite players to watch.
Well, you guys had some great games with him the last couple seasons, and I want to talk about your quarterback though, Trevor Lawrence. We've seen him grow up very quickly. Last year I had some coaches tell me he's seeing it differently now. What have you noticed his evolution just over this first half of the season?
Yeah, man, his maturity. It shocks me every time I realize how old he is. And just the talent he has, with the mindset that he has in the system that he's in. It's just a really good spot for him. And how competitive he is too. He's a real competitive dude. And when he gets in the zone, it's fun to see, and it's fun to be on the same field with. So just even coming in and building a relationship with him, and it's been cool because the objective is to win ball games. So you come in trying to build a relationship and chemistry on the field. But he's even a better guy. He's our biggest leader. He's a real humble dude, and it's been a blessing to play with him. It's been cool to getting to know him and spend time with him. And we have a lot of goals for ourselves, and we're all on the same page. We all play with a chip on our shoulder, and we play under a great coach that we all like to go play for. And we're in a great environment. Jacksonville is a great place for us to come in and work and stay focused and be a team and build a brotherhood. And it's showing right now.
Well, it's also probably pretty nice to be Trevor Lawrence right now, I think, when he looks out and his skill positions are you, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley. He's got his college teammate in Travis Etienne out there. Zay isn't even back yet, and now he's going to be returning for you guys after the bye week. When everybody's healthy, everybody's out there, this might be the best group of skill players in the NFL. Is that accurate?
Yeah, man. We all have really high expectations for ourselves and high standards for ourselves. And, we all work our butts off every single day. We're all committed. We're all bought in. And you feel that from each other. And our relationships are really cool, too. We're becoming brothers. And when you become brothers, you genuinely want the best for that person. And we're all in the field together. We're all supporting each other. We're all keeping each other uplifted. And even in the rough times, we stick together and we rally together. And it's just a great locker room, top down. Everybody's bought in. Everybody's on the same page, and like those names, those guys are dogs. We have a lot of talent on our team, and we have a great system too that gets everybody the touches, that gets everybody in space, and really puts defenses in the bind. Just using our talents, just our God-given ability. So top down, it's a whole team effort. It's an organizational effort. We all understand that, and we know together we can be a force.
Evan, you guys are also in a unique situation playing for the Jaguars, right? I did something this summer with your team owner, Shad Khan, over in London, right? You guys have 2 games over there. They've got an office over there. You guys have tremendous exposure in London. And he tells guys, you have an opportunity to become international celebrities as well. What's it like knowing that you do have that type of potential and that type of presence overseas?
Man, it's so cool to me, just that whole aspect. Last year coming to Jacksonville, that was my first time going over to London and getting that experience, coming into the league. And man, it's unbelievable actually. It's just a whole different, culture, different energy. And, I've grown up playing FIFA and really loving watching soccer and never played. I really was never good at all. I wish I played a little bit more, but big soccer fan. And
doesn't matter right
Who's
now.
your team? Who's your Premier League team?
On FIFA, Chelsea was my team back in the day. Fulham, I've been playing with Fulham now. That's
of course. Shad's team.
I gotta give a shout out there.
Got to.
And actually, we went to a game when we were out there too. So just it's that kind of atmosphere out there. It's just a different type of energy, and the Jags get a lot of love out there. It was really cool. We did a whole little media trip to kind of promote it last summer, and did a lot of things. Got to meet a lot of the fans out there, and just their support, how in tune they are with us in Jacksonville. You come to Jacksonville, it's nothing like London, but so it's kind of crazy going across the pond and getting that same amount of love like we do in Jax.
Right on. Well, Evan Engram, thank you so much for joining the NFL Report. Keep on doing your thing, man. You were great. And by the way, tell your wife she has got great interior design taste. That kitchen you have is the bomb.
Yeah, she's doing her thing, man. She's doing it. I'm just over here chilling. That's my job, man. I'm chilling.
All right, Evan. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it, Evan.
Man. Appreciate it.
One of the best tight ends in the NFL. And up next, we talk to the AFC Defensive Player of the Week, Justin Simmons, and he explains what it's like covering those elite tight ends on the NFL Report right after the break.
Four-man pressure. Russell in the pocket. Floats one in the back of the end zone. He's got Judy. Judy runs underneath it. Touchdown, Denver. Russell in the pocket. Bounces around. Can break, contain. Throws the ball back of the end zone. Touchdown, Denver. Cortland Sutton. Mahomes in the pocket. In trouble. Tries to climb with stiff arms. Bonito throws the ball on the run. That ball is intercepted. Justin Simmons. Simmons in Kansas City territory. Get out of bounds, Justin. This is a huge win for the Denver Broncos as they have beaten the world champions, breaking a 16-game losing streak.
Welcome into the NFL Report. Steve Weich, James Palmer with you, and we have one of my favorite people in the NFL. I'm probably not alone in this. Justin Simmons, 3-time Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for the Denver Broncos, multiple All-Pros, but for the first time, Justin, you win Defensive Player of the Week. How is this possible that this is the first time you win this award with as well as you've played over 8 years?
Yeah. Hey, man, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. And yeah, it's tough. It's been a long 8-year stretch, but when you don't win a lot of games, you're not gonna get offered up into that role. But I'm super thankful and appreciative of earning that honor this week.
Well, you earned it because you guys really put a decisive victory over the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
You recover a fumble. You get that late interception. I think that gives you 5 picks of Patrick Mahomes. You've intercepted him more than anybody's intercepted him.
More than anybody.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? It's just a matter of playing him twice a season, or you guys know, especially schematically, what they're trying to do, and it puts you in position to make plays.
Yeah, it's honestly all the above. I mean, playing them twice a year definitely gives me a one-up on most of anybody else. But also on top of that, if you go back and you watch all 5 interceptions, or however many there are, more times than not, we just get really great pressure. And Patrick Mahomes, as we all know, is a tremendous talent, one of, if not the best quarterback in the league. And so he's not going to not try and make a play. I mean, he's known for doing that. The ball's going to be in the air, and it's just a matter of executing. So with a great rush like we have, and a great execution in the secondary and the back end in terms of the pass game, sometimes I'm the beneficiary of an interception.
I got to put this out there, Justin, because I don't know if enough people know this. Since you came into the league in 2016, there is nobody in the NFL that has more interceptions than you. 29 picks is phenomenal for what you've been able to do at the safety position. And I use that to lead into, there was a lot of talk about the Broncos being sellers at the trade deadline. And your name kept kind of coming up because obviously what I just mentioned, teams want you. You're a great player. What goes through a player's mind in those couple days leading into the deadline wondering, do you talk to your agent? Do you want to know? Do you block it out? Do you hit up George Payton, Sean Payton? What goes through your head? What did you do in those days? And you're now a Bronco right now.
Yeah. Great question. I immediately hit my agent, just hearing rumors that, my name is being thrown around. And I just told him, I was like, hey, I don't know if, rumors are true or whatever the case may be, but don't tell me until, something's official. I don't want to hear, hey, they called and, we're working something out, this, that, and the other. I'd rather just put my head down, focus. I'm all in on the Broncos and trying to figure out, how to win and how to help us win games. And if it comes up, it comes up. That was really my mindset during the whole rumor phase of the trade deadline. And man, I'm super thankful that one, we go into the bye week with a win, and 2, I'm still a Bronco and hoping to turn this thing around in the second half of the season. And
Justin, that's what I wanted to get to. Okay, you guys didn't make any big moves, right? And so you know who you're rolling with, and you guys have put together, especially defensively, a nice run of games. I mean, do you feel that you guys are gaining the proper traction, again, especially on the defensive side of the ball, as to where you can string some W's together and get back into the mix?
Yeah, I 100% believe that. And I think that Kansas City game was kind of a statement game for us. I think defensively, we know that to start the season, it wasn't anywhere near what we're used to, how we're used to playing and what we're used to looking like. And we're getting some key guys back. I think Baron Browning coming back and especially in that game and how he came back was absolutely monster. We need him and the talent that he brings. I know Zach Allen was on an interview shortly after the Kansas City game, and he said, Baron has like Von Miller-esque movement, and you don't get that type of praise.
That's a lot.
For no reason.
Yeah.
And so really excited to have Baron. Any secondary player would tell you their favorite position on the field is a good pass rusher. So love having Baron back, and I really do. I really think we can make this push. We're playing well in all 3 phases, and that's what it's going to take to win games, especially against the teams that we play in the second half of the season.
Justin, take us kind of behind closed doors in a meeting room, maybe with VJ, and when you guys started seeing how you guys could play in what he wants you to do. I don't think we all have patience around the NFL very often. With you guys adjusting to what he wants you guys to do, was there like a conversation, a meeting, anything that sticks out maybe before this 3-game run that you guys have turned it defensively that kind of goes, okay, this is how we can play. We just need to do blank?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I wouldn't say one particular meeting, but there is one instance that came into my mind. It was right before we're getting ready to go play the Jets at home, and we're pulling up clips from, the Miami game, the Chicago game, the Washington game, games where they kind of got out of hand, especially the Miami game. And, he puts up all the clips of, all the negative plays that we had, positives that the offense had. Then he puts up clips of all the positive plays we had, the negative plays, that the offense had, and just showing the minute differences. And it's like one or two guys not being gap disciplined or not reading their coverage right in the first few seconds of their coverage responsibilities. And then it just is a trickling effect. Sometimes guys try to do too much. They try to make up for another guy's mistake, and those can go for big plays. And so, the moral of the story when he was going over this meeting is the difference maker is, we were able to get takeaways. And the second thing is we were playing sound, disciplined football. And it's not always pretty, doesn't always, mark up the stat sheet, for whatever TFLs and sacks and all these things. But when you play as a complete unit, all 11 to the football, you guys can be really special, and it's on tape. So this is our standard week in and week out, and it's not going to be perfect. But I'll control the X's and O's, and you guys control your effort, and that's all it's going to be. And so we've really bought into that these past few games, and by no means has it been perfect, but the level of consistency has stepped up.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I mean, to be able to understand you uphold integrity and discipline, how well that can really bring things together. I want to talk to you a little bit about the safety position, because also on the show we have Jaguars tight end Evan Engram. We know an athletic receiving tight end. You got Travis Kelce. As a safety who is often assigned to try to D up some of these tight ends, what is it like seeing maybe the evolution of that position, teams now moving them in and out of the slot, things like that, and how difficult has that made your job?
Yeah, it's made it extremely difficult. Especially when you get creative, like, Doug Peterson and Andy Reid do with their personnels and how they match up. You hear 12 personnel, which is one running back and two tight ends. You're thinking more of a run heavy formation, right? You're thinking double wing, maybe both tight ends on the same side, tight end on the ball, tight end off the ball. And you're thinking like duo gap schemes, maybe zones gap schemes, whatever the case may be. And, here comes 12 personnel against the Chiefs. And then now Travis Kelce's lined up in the slot at number 2, and you have base out there, and, you call a man play, and then there he goes,
a deep play, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, or you call zone, and he's one of the best tight ends ever, in my opinion, when you're asked to get open and he knows what the defenses are in. And I mean, Evan Engram as well. I mean, even safeties, it's pretty tough to guard him. And so the game is definitely evolving. It's changing. I think you're starting to see the evolution from the tight end position, the safety position. I mean, you got to be able to do way more than just, play free, play strong. You got to do way more than just be a pass blocker or just a catching tight end. I mean, you kind of got to be all of it in one. And it's fun doing that every week and trying to figure that out.
With that said, Justin, your position's becoming, adversely even more important to defenses, right? To guard that chess piece. So let's this might be hard, but let's play a Frankenstein game here in a sense. If you could just start pulling pieces from your favorite safeties of all time, maybe they're still playing now or they're done playing, and kind of build that safety that would be the best on the field. Because I know you study your position and you watch a ton of film. What kind of traits are you taking, and who are you taking them from?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm gonna just kind of go.
We should have talked about that before the show.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna just try and go off the top of my head here. I think when you look at my number one thing is like the physicality, and that's so hard because there's so many good physical safeties. I mean, that's what it was, especially watching the game growing up. You know, I would have to go with like a Bob Sanders, or I would have to go with yeah, I would. I think, man, watching him play in Indy, I was like,
oh man, Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. So him, like a Steve Atwater type of physicality. I would go with Brian Dawkins for like energy, like unmatched energy. I think, you know, I think what he brought to the game in terms of his passion, his energy. I think you got to be able to play with some of that. Going more modern, I think.
What about like IQ?
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think going more modern and IQ, I'm kind of at a split. I want to go Minka and Tyron. I think those two,
beautiful.
When I watch them
I love that.
week in and week out, I think those two do it at an extremely high level, and they're so versatile. And I think that's what makes them. I mean, anytime you watch, whenever you know what you watched him with the Cardinals, the Texans, the Saints, and the Chiefs. I mean, you know, Tyron's playing slot, he's playing corner, he's playing high safety, he's playing in the box. And then Minka, I mean, he's pressed up on, you know, a slot receiver, a tight end. Then sometimes he's in the deep middle. And in order to move like that, you got to have the IQ and know what's going on. And those guys are still ball productive. You know, another guy, I think, when you're talking about instinctiveness and playing the run and being around the line of scrimmage, I'm going to say Jamal Adams, you know, especially when he was with New York and what he was doing. I mean, to have the ability to blitz and like I said, I would like a Jamal and this is no, you know, like Troy Polamalu, like to have the ability to know and to be instinctual around the football and just like, hey, I'm supposed to blitz here, but this is open. Yeah, I'm kind of taking this, and then, you know, you're getting strip sacks and you're making game-changing plays. I think that's huge.
Justin, real quick, because we're running short on time. The one thing I love about all those safeties,
I would listen to this all day.
All day. I wish we had more time. Is the physicality of all those guys. And Justin, we really appreciate you with the time you gave us, but also the time you give all those young people with the Justin Simmons Foundation. Again, a 3-time Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for the Denver Broncos, Justin Simmons. Appreciate you joining the NFL Report.
Yeah. Hey, thank you guys so much for having me again. It was really a blast, and I appreciate you.
Just an absolutely special player and a special interview. Coming up next is James Palmer's favorite segment of the week, Baldi's film breakdowns. We're going to take a look at Chase Young, who's headed to the 49ers, next on the NFL Report.
Welcome into my favorite segment each and every week. It's Baldi's favorite films here on the NFL Report with Steve Weich and the man himself, Brian Baldinger, in the middle. Baldi, what I love each week, though, is you always watch these interviews that we have on before you. What was your take? Anything jump out at you from either Evan Engram or Justin Simmons? There was a lot there with both those guys.
Well, first of all, I'm always trying to glean information from intelligent players. I mean, obviously, these are thinking man type players, right? You listen to Evan speak, you listen to Justin speak. I mean, these guys just aren't showing up on Sunday. This is a year-round, you know, profession. They take it seriously. They take your questions seriously. You know, there's a respect for what you guys do. So I took that. But I just think that, you know, when you look at Evan and you talk about the evolution of the tight end, and Steve, you bring up the stat that 4 of the top 20 receivers are tight ends. I mean, they're calling plays for these guys now. These plays, the offense is going through Evan, especially on third downs. And then you look at Justin Simmons, and I just think, I thought it was very interesting that even when they gave up 70 to Miami, just the difference between the explosive plays they surrendered that day and plays they could have made. And that it's not as bad as it looked. And it's just, okay, we gotta tighten this up, we gotta fix this. You know, and here they are, you know, keeping the Chiefs out of the end zone and taking the ball away 5 different times. And all of a sudden, you start looking at some of the players, Baron Browning, and some of the guys that are there right now, and what they're doing. You know, they're putting this thing on the right track in Denver.
Baldi, quickly before we get to your favorite films, the Raiders situation. I mean, just to change over the timing of it, Aiden O'Connell coming in at quarterback now. I mean, do they have a shot to get this thing together?
I don't know. We'll see what Antonio does. I've been on teams that fire coaches. You play for the interim coach. The Raiders have been through this with Gruden, a couple years ago. The roster looks pretty incomplete to me.
Yeah.
And I thought the contrast, Steve, honestly, of playing in Detroit on Monday night was a big part of what Mark Davis did. I mean, here's the Lions, and we can see the building. We can see the development, the draft picks, the stability at quarterback, all those things that Detroit has. And then you see the fans and just a dominant performance against the Raiders. I thought it was because that's what the Raiders were supposed to be doing with Josh and Dave Ziegler. They're supposed to be doing what the Lions are, and it was clear they're a long ways away from that right now.
All right, Baldi, now let's get to your film breakdowns, and let's start with a very intriguing trade to me, and that's San Francisco going out and get Washington defensive end Chase Young. And a few weeks ago, you said you really wanted to see him because, frankly, we hadn't.
Yeah, well, look, Chase Young got off to a slow start. He's played better the last 3 weeks. But I think for a third-round pick, the 49ers needed to do something up front. Cleveland Farrell isn't the answer. Nick Bosa is not having a great season so far. They needed just an induction of energy and talent to that defense front because the entire defense, Steve, is built around their front four. And Justin Hargrave has underperformed to this point, and they're not making the impactful plays and affecting the quarterback the way they want to. And they're a zone team behind it, Steve. And so all of a sudden, you look at what Kirk Cousins did, you look what Joe Burrow did last week. If you're not hitting those guys and affecting them and getting them down to the ground, they're going to carve you up. And both quarterbacks just carved the 49ers defense up. I applaud John Lynch for making the move because I think it's going to help.
Let's stay over there on the West Coast, Baldi, and talk about a game in a team that you covered and called last week in the Seattle Seahawks. And they made some moves on their defensive line over the last couple weeks and at the deadline. They get Frank Clark. They get Leonard Williams. They bolster that group. It's funny, I was just on the phone with the defensive coordinator saying defensive line right now means more than anything in the way the NFL is going right now. And you saw Seattle up front. What do you see up front specifically and with this defense?
Well, I mean, Jaron Reed has been a great signing, in the middle. He's played great. Boye Mafe, the second-year defensive end out of Minnesota, he keeps developing. But I think, to your point, James, it is about your defensive fronts and how you can affect the quarterback, especially when you get to January. You've got to be able to knock these guys off their spots and hit them and not let the passing game just take over. And so Big Cat Williams, a good player against the run and the pass. Frank Clark, I remember Pete Carroll said when he was a rookie, he's the single most explosive player I've ever drafted. Now, I don't know that Frank is still the same guy, but he shows up in the postseason. He has the last couple of years at Kansas City. So I expect that to be a difference because on the back end, you look at Jordan Brooks and you look at Bobby Wagner, they're solid. Yeah. Jamal Adams, you look at what Witherspoon is doing and Woolen and then Quandre Diggs and Julian Love. They've got a great back end of their defense. They'll all be better if they get better rush and better push up front.
Yeah, Baldi, you texted me this team is going to be tough to beat in December. Let's look on the other side of the ball, though. Geno Smith, now he's not surprising anybody anymore, but he also has two rookie wide receivers that are.
Well, look, Jackson Smith and Jigba, the first-round pick, and Jake Bobo, the free agent out of Duke, they have scored touchdowns in each of the last two games. And they have certain packages for them where, it's still kind of mind-blowing to me, where they take DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett off the field.
Wow.
And they're playing these young guys out there, and D. Eskridge got a chance to get activated last week. So they have different packages for different things. They also have their 3 tight end package, which is good as there is in the league when you put out Disley, Parkinson, and Fant at tight end. And then they have 2 backs, in Kenneth Walker and the rookie Zach Charbonnet. I just think they have what you need to have. You've got to have versatility, where if some team matches up with you and can take something away, can you beat them a different way? And I think Seattle is creating different ways to win. They have juggled their offensive line because of injuries. They've played a lot of rookies in there. They got a rookie right guard who's playing great, but Charles Cross is back. Like they have 15 rookies on the 53-man roster, which is almost unheard of. And so many of them are contributing to this Pete Carroll team.
I bet you a lot of those guys are watching Jason Peters pay back in his heyday, Baldi, and now they're on the same squad. You know?
I saw Jason sitting on a bench the other day. He's ready to go in.
Yeah, he's ready. He's ready. He's still got there. He's still out there. Baldi, appreciate it. It's my favorite segment each and every week. Appreciate you stopping by once again. And guys, we're coming up with the coach.
Yep.
We're going to be.
Good.
Baldi's gone. He's gone, guys. It's Aiden O'Connell. He's going to be starting for the Las Vegas Raiders. Do we have a quarterback crisis on our hands, Steve? Pep Hamilton's going to answer that question on the NFL Report coming up next.
We're back with the final segment here, the NFL Report. And James, it's time for a little pep talk with our in-house coach, former head coach, offensive coordinator, Pep Hamilton in the house. Pep, I'm loving the Howard University helmet, our alma mater, sitting there behind you. But let's get to something more important. And that is what you described to us off air as a quarterback crisis going on in the NFL right now. Please explain.
Well, I think it's two parts, Steve. It's a quarterback crisis that's ultimately fueled by a patience crisis, meaning that the fantasy owners, the active owners, the franchise owners, the fans, everybody is extremely impatient with your quarterbacks, and it's a process that takes it takes years at times. In order to really get your quarterback ready to play winning football. But specific to the quarterback crisis that I think we're dealing with right now, we've had 42 starting quarterbacks up until this point of the season. And we're coming off a year where we had 64 starting quarterbacks, Steve, last year, which was, by the way, an NFL record for the number of different starting quarterbacks. So availability is the most important ability. And right now, we can't keep our quarterbacks upright, and they're not available.
Pep, I'm curious, what is the reason why we can't keep quarterbacks upright and available? If you could put your finger on maybe three different reasons why or something like that.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, James, because first and foremost, it's the first time, that in my years in the NFL, my years in coaching, that we've had a trickle-up effect. In years past, there would be different trends and different things that teams did schematically across the NFL that you would see at times on Saturday afternoon when you're watching college football, where now it's the inverse of that. NFL teams are now majoring in shotgun formations, majoring in 11 personnel, running more RPOs and calling specifically more plays where the quarterback is being asked to run the football. And leave and vacate that halo, that sanctuary that you have in the pocket where it's intended to keep him safe and upright.
Well, it's interesting. It's also, you talk about the lack of patience in Las Vegas. That goes to the extreme because you're blowing out the head coach, the OC, the GM. But now they're also blowing out their quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. They're putting in rookie Aiden O'Connell. Okay, but here's the question for you. He's had a little bit of action, but you just got rid of his play designer and his play caller in Josh McDaniels and his play installer in Mick Lombardi. The guy who's going to be handling all of that for him now is Bo Hardigree, who's been a long-time assistant and quarterback coach, but he hasn't called plays based on everything we know about him.
Well, I think the good news is Bo Hardigree is going to continue to filter through the information that Aiden O'Connell is going to need to be able to go out and play fast and play winning football. And when I say filter through it, with the quarterback, less is more. And with young quarterbacks, you want to almost stage each play for them so that you can mitigate the what ifs and the possibilities of bad things happening, and then hope that their instincts allow them to go out and function in a way that you can win each play. But, yeah, he's going to be faced with a ton of challenges. I'm talking Aiden O'Connell. But the good news is his quarterback coach, his position coach, which is likely the person that he spent the most one-on-one time with, will continue to be in his ear.
Pep, if you could, because Steve and I have never had the luxury of doing this, take us behind closed doors into what that quarterback room might be like this week. And what really has to go down for as much success as possible on Sunday between Bo, between Aiden O'Connell. Like, what needs to happen? What probably is happening in that room when you say less is more?
Well, I would say this. I think that, Bo is going to have his hands full in just, carrying that responsibility of coming up with the game plan, coming up with the strategies that they're going to feel are going to be necessary for them to go out and win the game. One thing I do know is he's going to have the luxury of having an experienced play caller in the building on the offensive side of the ball specifically in Scott Turner. Scott Turner is a part of the offensive staff at the Raiders. And so I'm sure that Scott will help to facilitate some of the organizational things that Bo is going to have to take on in his new role as the play caller and the offensive coordinator. But there's nothing more important, all right, than the coordinator's ability, the play caller's ability to translate his thoughts to that young quarterback who's got to go out there and function and play at a high level, truly under duress.
Yeah, and Pep, they're playing the Giants. What's Wink Martindale going to be throwing at Aiden O'Connell? A billion.
You may not see a safety in the, You may not see a safety in the post the entire game.
So hey, look. So we're and this is great because we were talking last night. We were talking about the turnover, not just in head coaches but in coordinators, and guys. Like, how has that impacted the quarterback? Because the level has been significant.
Well, since 2006, I think it is, Steve. There's been 226 offensive coordinator openings in the NFL. And fortunately, but unfortunately, I've had the opportunity. That's right, 226.
Yeah, you're included in that number, Pep.
Yeah. When you add Mick Lombardi to that, I just added Mick Lombardi. It was 225. Now we had 226 since the last time we talked. And
on the fly math right there, yeah.
Right. During that period, I had the opportunity to call plays with 3 different NFL franchises. But nevertheless, what we're seeing is, and I go back to my point of, we have a patience crisis going on, not just in the National Football League, but in America, in society as a whole. Everybody wants instant grits. They don't want to put the beans in the crock pot and let them simmer anymore. They want the quarterbacks to get out of college football and be ready to control and fly the space shuttle to the moon, and that's ambitious.
Yeah, that is ambitious. Even though we know Josh Dobbs might be able to at least fly the rocket to the moon.
Yeah, he can take it.
Since he's a rocket scientist, Josh Dobbs, he'll probably be starting with the Vikings sometime soon at quarterback. Pep Hamilton, great job with the pep talk. JP, another awesome episode of the NFL Report. We will be back Monday. Couple really good games coming up this weekend. JP, we will make sure you've got the fresh popcorn in here for next Thursday for Baldi's Films. But Monday, again, be sure to check out the NFL Report and listen to the podcast. JP, this is also a podcast?
Got to. It certainly is. Also a podcast.
Oh, well done.
That's what 6 years of college will do for you, Steve.